It's tried and true, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken, and for the first time in almost 2 months now, we're a postgame show again. If you're joining us live, we're coming at you right after week 2 of the eMLS tournament special that's been airing on FS1, and we're pleased to be joined tonight by Paul Arriola. Paul, first of all, welcome back to the show. You are our first returning guest. It's great to talk to you again.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be back, and yeah, like you said, a little post-game podcast. Never hurt anybody. I'm sure it's doing a lot of people some good right now.
Yeah, no, that's definitely for sure. And for those of the folks who out there who didn't catch the tournament already, this was week 2 of the eMLS tournament special for DC United. It was Paul Arriola and King CJ. DC United won the first series tonight 2-1 over 2 legs versus the New England Revolution, but unfortunately were eliminated in the quarterfinals against Sporting Kansas City. But 2 great games. And Paul, can you talk us through a little bit about how you got involved in this tournament and what the training process was like?
Yeah, it was. I mean, to be honest, someone from the club had just reached out to me and asked me if I would be interested. And at first, of course, I thought, well, I'm sure there's some other guys on the team that can compete better than I could, but I don't try and shy away from a challenge. So when they let me know that I was going to be on it, kind of walked me through it and set everything up. I had about 2 weeks really to really train, and I used to play FIFA all the time growing up. Going way back like 6-7 years. And so, I felt okay about it. Recently, I haven't really played too much. So I definitely had to train more than I typically would. And yeah, man, the nerves were there. But it ended up being a pretty fun event. And, obviously happy that I was able to at least win the first game. And then unfortunately, Wan from Sporting Kansas City was just, he was too dominant for me.
Yeah, well, we loved seeing you back out there representing DC United in the best way you can during these pandemic times. And it looks like you were listening to Mohamed's advice a lot. Did you get to practice with him at all or talk to him beforehand? I saw you all had your coordinated intro at the very beginning. So I think there was probably some communication, but you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we played a couple games right before, kind of setting everything up on the same day. So it was a like I said, it was a fun experience, and obviously this is what he does and what he loves, and it was definitely putting a lot of us into a different uncomfortable position, right? It's not really on literally on the field, but playing in a video game with a meaning. So there was definitely a different type of purpose, a different type of feeling. But there, it was a good time, and listening to him. The only time I didn't listen to him was on the penalty kick in the first game against New England when he told me to stay in the middle, and I decided to go to the left a little bit. But beside that, yeah, he was great. He was a good time. Helped me out, and unfortunate that we didn't get past the quarterfinals.
Yeah, it ended up being a good decision on your part to make a move on that PK. Can you talk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, it was just one of those things like, I don't know if any of you guys play FIFA, but it's just, I guess in any kind of like sport game or, like even in real life, like you just kind of get a feeling of like, which way they're going to go. And obviously you have 2 choices, either you're right or you're wrong. So, you kind of, take your chances there and go with your gut. And, when I've been practicing, I haven't been bad at saving penalty kicks. There's no real like reasoning why, other than trying to like just think about it right before the situation happens. And during the game, you guys weren't able to hear it, on the TV, but Diego was talking about how he didn't know how to kick them and all these things. So, obviously CJ was like, well, stay in the middle because he's not going to know, how to place it into a corner. And so instead of like listening to that, I just kind of listened to, what I thought would happen. Ended up being the right thing, and it helped me out in the long run.
Yeah, Paul, it sounds like you had to pick up the game in a relatively short time and get ready to play. We've talked to a couple of your teammates, specifically Griffin Yao, and he was pretty proud of his FIFA prowess. Have you played against either of those guys? Can you say that you're better than them now that you've played with some pros?
Oh, for sure. I could say, I don't know. I mean, come on, some of these younger kids, man, they try and flex on you. They try to be, thinking that they're the best thing around. I played Griffin in preseason. And I know if you were to ask him, he would say that I beat him most of the time, besides the very first time that we played. And I remember that because I think we only ended up playing like 3 to 4 games, during preseason. But, all these kids are big talkers. I would say the one person that gave me the most problems that I never beat was Kevin Paredes. He was the real deal, but I got a message from him today saying that he was proud of me after the first game. So, it made me feel a little better about myself.
Well, that's high praise indeed, and it sounds like it's a great way for you to connect with your teammates. How did you decide how you were going to roll your lineup out there? It looked like you made a couple of switches in the middle and kept yourself out wide. Any insight into how you made those decisions?
Yeah, from the beginning, I was playing when I was training and practicing with the squad. I was playing a lot with Yamil out wide. I tried Gressel, inside right back. I tried to move Russell, flip those two a little around. I tried messing around with Flores and Higuain and kind of see. Obviously, a lot of it determines on the attributes that each player is given in FIFA. Obviously Higuain was, I think, a 74 in comparison to Flores, who was at a 70. I was playing Yamil a lot, like I said, on the left, until like the game before I actually had to play in the match. CJ told me that I should put Ima Boateng because he's fast in the game and I'm fast. And so, for me, when, I thought my quality was really in the defensive third and being able to like not really be faked out and not really dive in and everyone's juke moves. And so I was able to really stand my ground. And then once I get it, I'm very direct, which is, funny that pretty much like that in real life as well. So I had 2 guys on the wing. I had Ola up top, and I just tried to play real direct and obviously get some crosses in. And the first game, I had a few chances, some of them that I like to have back, and especially with myself, maybe putting the last one away. But in the end, it didn't hurt me. It was there was a lot of game planning going into it, and trying to make sure that I did the best for the club.
We're live with Paul Arriola here on Tried and True, the DC United Postgame podcast presented by Heineken. And if you've got questions for Paul, send them in using the hashtag Tried and True DCU, or jump on the YouTube live stream and hit us there. Paul, it's fascinating to hear a lot of the tactics that went into this. How do you think the lineup that you played would actually play out in real life, right? Like, would that work against certain teams, or is it just too much up front and they would get run over?
I think it would be a decent team. Look, I think we have a bunch of talent and great players, players with experience, players with a lot of hunger, with a lot of energy. I think it could be very similar in the sense of we could score a lot of goals, right? Like you talked about it, like a lot of offensive power, and obviously I'm a big fan of explosiveness and the ability to get in behind. I think it's such a key part of the game for a lot of teams, because without that, you never really worry the defense of another team if you never have the width and are willing to run in behind. And I think with Ima and myself, 2 players who are willing to do that explosive. And then in the middle, of course. Before the COVID-19 came around, Russell was playing right back, and he's been tremendous there. But I think he's still a tremendous, core piece of the midfield. I think he's a great player. When you have him in the midfield, he's a guy that can consistently win balls, no matter what part of the field. So I think, with that lineup, I think we'd be okay. I think we'd score a lot of goals. And I think our defense has been solid for the past couple of years. We've grown a lot collectively as a team, defensively. So I think we would have a pretty good, strong squad there.
Yeah, I agree, Paul. Kind of continuing the shift back to real life. We saw some workout videos on Instagram. How's the recovery going? We talked to you at the beginning of the season, and you seemed high in spirits. And judging off the video, you seem to be doing pretty well. How's it going?
Yeah. I mean, look, it's obviously been a bit of a challenge, but if I'm being honest with you guys, time has flown so far. I'm a little over 2 months now, and it's been every day working out. Once I was able to get full motion as I'm riding a bike, I've been doing a lot more cardio, staying fit. Some of the people from the club have dropped off some weights for me here at my house, so I've got a little gym going on downstairs. And obviously I go to therapy every 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday is one of them is my off day, and the other one is a day to continue to work on a little lighter scale. So it's been great. Like I said, it's there of course there's the days that they're hard and they're frustrating, and you want to bang your head against the wall, but most of the time it's been a smooth ride so far. A lot of hard work, and obviously with everything going on around the world, in the United States, when there's no sports or soccer, obviously, as obviously we planned that I would miss. So there's a positive to all the sides, and obviously for me it's not missing as many games and being able to get back sooner and not have people kind of see me go through the difficult part of in the beginning it's barely being able to walk with a crutch, and then it's getting off the crutches, and then it's walking a little faster, and then it's lifting and all these different things, and for me when I get back, everyone at the club is going to see me as normal, right? More than likely I'll be able to jog, I'll be able to do little movements, and so it'll be kind of like I never missed a beat in a sense. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about how it's been going for me so far, and I'm looking forward to getting better like I have been every day.
Well, that's great, Paul. We appreciate all the hard work you're putting in. All DC United fans are really excited to see you back out on the field, and we're just rooting for you and excited for everyone to get back on the field, frankly. But, these are some crazy times. And, personally, how are you doing? How are you holding up throughout this pandemic?
Yeah. It's, obviously it's everyone has a different perspective, and obviously we shouldn't be going out of our house unless it's essential because, we want to limit the contacts between person to person. For me, I think what's kind of helped me keep going is honestly that I have therapy every day. That's kind of the way that I have to get out of the house. I have to go and interact with other people. Obviously, if you guys saw my videos, we have masks on and we have to stay, far apart from each other. But, it's been okay. And I've learned how to read a cookbook and some recipes. So that's kind of helped me. And reading a couple books. So, time has been great. Obviously, I get to spend more time at home than usual. And luckily, my girlfriend doesn't want to kill me yet, so that's great news. I think we're moving in the right direction from that aspect. But it's been a good, tough first 2 months of rehab. But obviously, you got to go through every single process and be willing, to understand the ups and the downs that come with it. So, like I said, it's been great. I've been able to mentally stay strong and really focus on what's important when it comes to my rehab and my knee.
For sure. And, speaking of important things, we've got a fan question here from Abby Shriver. She wants to know how the pug is doing. Has your dog had too many walks, just enough, or tired of having you around the house? How's the dog doing?
Yeah, they're doing well. I'm not quite sure if they're happy or mad that I'm constantly home now. But they're being treated, great. And, it's nice to actually see them in, constantly every single day and be able to kind of see their routines, because, in the past it's only been my girlfriend, who has really, stayed with them every single day and been, she knows all their routines and all that stuff. So for me, it's nice to be able to, bond with them a little more, gain some of the love that they have for my girlfriend and put it back on myself. So, they're good. And, we try and take them on a couple walks a day, a couple walks a week, just because the two pugs are, they can get fat and overweight if they don't exercise a lot. So, they like to be couch potatoes, but we try and get them out.
I kind of feel like I like to be a couch potato too, especially nowadays. Our last question for you here, Paul, and this has become a little bit of a competition on the show amongst your teammates, but if we put 30 seconds on the clock, can you give us a pitch as to why we should put your name on the back of our 2020 DC United jersey?
Yeah, for sure. Am I ready? Is the clock going, or do I not need a clock?
We'll start it right now.
Listen, I think, when it comes to finding the player that you want to represent all the time, it's someone that obviously feels for the club that you can relate to. And for me as a player, I think more than talent, it's hard work, it's dedication, it's sacrifice, that a lot of us feel that we give in our normal lives every day. And we understand that we're not perfect, and, we're not going to give, we're just not born with what we have. So, when you think of Paul Arriola, you think of a guy that works hard, that gives his all, and that brings everything that he has every single game. And for me, that's the type of people that I want to represent as well.
Well, we love to hear it, Paul, and we're so thankful to have you on the show again. We're thrilled that your spirits are good, you're doing healthy, and of course, we hope that you're with the black and red for life, because you definitely got the passion, and we love having you on. So thanks so much for joining us, and it was a lot of fun watching you play on the FIFA side of things tonight. So congrats on the big win over the local rivals tonight, and hopefully you had a good time in the competition.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate the time as always.
That's DC United's Paul Arriola joining us here on Tried and True. We will be right back to talk a bit more about the eMLS tournament here on Tried and True, the DC United Postgame Podcast presented by Heineken. The DC United Postgame Podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 2 minutes.
Can't listen to us live on YouTube? Find Tried and True, the DC United Postgame Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, or Pocket Casts the morning after the match.
Tried and True, the DC United Postgame Podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 90 seconds.
Hey, thanks for listening live. If you want to join the conversation, let us know what you think in real time using the chat on YouTube Live, on Twitter using the hashtag TriedAndTrueDCU, or text us at 202-892-6328.
Tried and True, the DC United Postgame Podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 60 seconds.
Let us know what you think between games on Twitter at hashtag TriedAndTrueDCU, or email us at triedandtruedcu@gmail.com.
Tried and True, the DC United Postgame Podcast presented by Heineken. We'll be back in less than 30 seconds.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you like what you hear, go ahead and give us a follow on social media. You can find us on Instagram or Twitter at TriedAndTrueDCU. Again, that's Instagram or Twitter at TriedAndTrueDCU.
And we're back here on Tried and True, the DC United Postgame Podcast presented by Heineken. And boy, it was fun to talk to Paul Arriola again. And honestly, it felt so good to watch soccer again. It didn't even matter that it was FIFA. I had such a blast watching the games again. I don't know about you guys.
Oh, absolutely. I watched last week, I watched this week, and, the four of us got on Zoom to watch together, and there were times when I'd look down and we all, had our hands over our heads and we're, freaking out. I definitely felt the stress of watching an actual soccer game.
The nerves were
I don't
definitely
know if that says
back.
about me, but, yeah, I miss it so much. So it's so great that they're putting these on so you can at least get into it a little bit and kind of root for and against different MLS teams in this tournament.
Well, and to hear a player like Paul Arriola, somebody who's obviously excelled on the field, talk about how seriously he was taking this tournament as a chance to represent the black and red, and putting in practice, trying to get back up to speed, ready to go. That's always encouraging, and he's always a great player to talk to. Love to have him on the show.
Yeah, I loved it. It was very typical Paul Arriola to put that hard work in and to get himself up to where he needed to be. I loved seeing it or hearing it. And you could see on the TV screen that he looked a little nervous and he was getting really into it. So he definitely brought that pride into it.
I thought he showed excellent tonight. I don't know. Man, Mo might have his seat might be a little bit warmer after that. DC United might ask Paul to be on the right wing and the eMLS player.
Well, it's funny. I loved hearing Paul talk a bit about, he thinks he's beat Griff more than he's lost to him. So that was funny to hear. And then, Joshua, I think you had the idea a couple weeks ago. We got to get the definitive DC United player power rankings in FIFA. I think this is something we need.
Oh, definitely. I'd love to see that bracket going just within DC United. Just give us more FIFA to watch, give us more, teams to cheer on. But I think that'd be great. But I think we want to, break down these games a little bit. They were definitely fun to watch, especially Paul dominating that very first game he played in.
Yeah, so starting just to give our listeners who didn't have the chance to watch tonight, which you should totally go back and rewatch it on whatever streaming service will allow you to do that. But each matchup was a two-legged fixture where the MLS players faced off in the first leg, and then the eMLS players played in the second leg. So it was Paul Arriola versus Diego Fagundez in the first DC United match of the night. And it was, like I said, it was so much fun. DC United was attacking for the first 10 minutes or so. It was actually a moment where you saw the virtual Paul Arriola in the game yelling at the referee, who I gotta believe was Ted Uncle. I don't know for sure. I can't confirm. But I think at that moment, that's when I was like, this feels so real. I'm into it again. And it was an awesome first half.
It's literally your note after that apparently I said out loud that I was nervous. So we talked about it. I was like, did I say it? And you all were like, yeah, several times. So I was really getting into it. But yeah, it was great. And then, you got to talk about that PK save that Bill / Paul made. That was amazing.
Yeah, apparently the eMLS player was talking to Paul during the game and told him just to stay put because Fagundez indicated that he didn't know how to take PKs, and so it was going to go straight down the middle. But Paul just felt that it was going to the left. I actually called it here in our Zoom chat, and then Paul dives left and saved it. It was incredible. It got us on the edge of our seats. And then not 8 minutes later, Paul crashes the net on the other end. It was end-to-end stuff. It was great.
It was great. Man, that goal was such a DC United goal. I think we all agreed that, especially in these first two games in that first leg, it was very DC United play. And it was definitely one of those things where there was a little thing in front of the net, and I kind of threw my hands up, and I was like, oh, we missed, and I kind of turned away, and then you all were like, it's in the net, and started cheering. So
that's Russell Canal scoring
the
first MLS goal of the season and the first eMLS goal of the season for the Black and Red.
Yeah, you love it.
And it was, right at halftime that my girlfriend came upstairs and was like, dude, you got to shut the door. You're being way too loud, which I assume meant that this was real. It was so much fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and then you just saw us kind of go up 2-0 in the second half, and they ended up pulling one back, but it was still great to see. Again, I mentioned Paul. He looked so intense, and he looked like he was really in it. And they had mentioned on the broadcast that he had asked if he could mute the mics of the other players so he could just hear Mohamed talk to him and give him advice and everything like that. You heard in our interview with Paul that they had a couple practice games, but again, it's just very DC United. You love him bringing the passion and, bringing and trying to give it his all, even though it's eMLS, he still wants to be able to deliver from the fans, deliver for the fans, and I absolutely love it.
And you heard Paul talking a little bit about it during our interview with him. He really was taking it seriously, and saw some of it, his own play translate into FIFA. You know, I think on the broadcast he had a quote saying, you know, he had one of those moments where you could just everything slows down, you can see it happening. So you do wonder how much of that just being a gamer, you know, has different context when it comes to video games versus playing real life. But you know, perhaps some of those skills translate over.
Well, apparently they did for Diego
Yeah.
Fagundez, who managed to score with himself in the 85th minute of that game. But it did end 2-1 in the first game. Could have been 3-1. Paul missed a sitter at the death. We could have put him up 3-1. But big
Paul
result
being Paul
in
the game as well.
Yes, absolutely. It is a weird universe we live in where I have to clarify that. But
Well, I loved it, you know, Stu Holden is announcing as if he's announcing a real game because we're all watching it that way, and him saying, you know, Arriola asked himself, bringing it down the wing. So, you know, I just love everyone's taking it seriously, but you also just kind of have to sit back and laugh. But yeah, I mean, Paul, I mean, he gave, I guess King CJ is his handle. He gave him, you know, a pretty good lead in that second game. We didn't have to worry about a whole lot.
Yeah, and then we got to see some classic Benny ball from the pro. He put down the bunker and counterattack that we used to see before Paul was on this team a lot. We still kind of see it every now and then, but yeah, he defended the full 90 minutes and ended the game 0-0. I mean, there's not much we can talk about that game. He did what he had to do to go on, and that's what they did.
Yeah, but you gotta be impressed with a guy who comes in and says, "Hey, I got one goal in my pocket, and I don't need to score any more goals." You know, it doesn't necessarily lead to the most exciting games to watch, but I don't think he even took a shot in that game. But if you got the lead, why do you need to?
yeah, he did not take a single shot in that game, and in the interview afterwards, he said he just deployed some typical Jose Mourinho tactics. It was, I will tell you though, it was very interesting to see, you know, in that second game with the eMLS players, it felt to me like there was more structure to the game from the get-go. Like it was so end-to-end with Paul and Diego, and in the second game it was intense.
It was, yeah, and you could hear them kind of talk about how there's a little bit more, you know, in the game there's a little bit more discipline. You were seeing them make a couple extra passes, and you know, as somebody, if somebody were to tell me that I needed to appear on FS1 in 2 weeks to play, you know, FIFA, I would definitely spend the next 2 weeks really training up for it. And I would probably look even a lot worse than Paul did, but I think my play would be, you know, very similar and just trying to move it up the field. So you could see where those, you know, eMLS players really put in their time, and this is something that they're training for and doing all the time. And you could see that they were a little bit more strategic and, you know, crossing the fields and taking those extra passes, like they said, and passing it back. You could definitely see that difference. So, you know, we won those 2 games pretty handedly against New England, which is always great to see. And I think it surprised to no one that we were able to beat New England.
Well deserved after last year's
then,
debacles against New England.
You know, and then we moved on. I guess it's the quarterfinals.
Yeah, small bracket we have going here. Not all 24. He says confidently 26 MLS teams. 26. Nobody is confident.
Do they all have E-players? I don't even know that they all have E-players.
I don't know. I think a couple of the future expansion teams have E-players as well, but I think it's a 16-team bracket. So, yeah, moving on to the round of 8 or the quarterfinals did DC United. And there's not a ton to talk about here. It was an interesting first half of the first game, but 23rd minute, Wan Kuzain, who's I guess in the second half, Stu Holden noted that he believed he's the best MLS player in the competition from the get-go, and he might not be wrong. He played a great game, scored a goal in the 23rd minute with Saloy, and from there, it just never looked back. It could have been 2-3, 4-0 in the first half. It was interesting.
I kind of disagree. You know, going back, I said I watched last weekend, and Diomande with LAFC, like he wrecked their bracket. So, you know, I don't know that Sporting Kansas City in either leg this time really, you know, beat us handedly. They definitely had the upper hand, but there were points when we definitely could have come back. I don't think it was like automatically Sporting Kansas City's game, but watching LAFC last weekend, like, I mean, I think they're some real strong contenders in this entire tournament.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound bitter or, making excuses, but we put one of our DPs out there. This is for television, for charity. Like, I think they found some kids from their homegrown program that plays FIFA a lot. Like, that, come on.
Yeah, he hasn't had an appearance since 2008.
Josh was going to file a formal grievance with the eMLS commissioner once we figure out who that is. That there's some eligibility questions about Sporting Kansas City.
Well, and frankly,
First we need to see is that. Go ahead.
Paul was in that game, most of the way. They're only down 1 going into extra time. I think Kuzain scored right at the death to make it 2-0. But a 1-0 loss when the first game, the Sporting KC player just blew out their opponents in the early leg. So, got to give Paul a lot of credit for his performance there.
I'll tell you, I got to give myself a little bit of credit, too, though. It took me until that third game late in the second half for me to yell at the E-ref for the first time, which is restrained for me watching soccer.
And on a personal note, I really dislike watching us play in those white jerseys. And I know we've talked about jerseys ad nauseum on this show, but DC United should always be playing in black and red. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, I don't think you'll find much disagreement here. Moving into the second fixture of that two-legged series, DC United down 2-0 on aggregate, and there's not a whole lot to talk about in the second game. King CJ versus Alekzandur from Sporting Kansas City, and it was a 3-0 loss for the black and red, 5-0 on aggregate. They went down in a blaze of glory.
Yeah, I think it was one of those situations when you're losing and you just don't really see that you can come back, and then you have, especially in the first half, like Black said, they scored in overtime. So you see that they, maybe Paul let off the gas a little bit, and then they just got that sneaker in there. And then the second half again, it was a little bit hard, and Sporting Kansas City got that third goal. And then from there, it would have been hard to come back, and you kind of saw Sporting Kansas City run away with it. Again, I don't think that they were a team that was necessarily 5 goals better than us, but that's just kind of the way it played out.
Well, it's what you get, when you watch Cup soccer. This is a single elimination tournament, and you get knocked out if you lose. So obviously, CJ felt like he had to go after the game, and it's one of the things that we love watching in Open Cup, and why MLS having its playoff system is so cool. It can lead to some bunker games, but it also leads to some wide open play when you've got teams that have to score. And unfortunately, the DC United folks weren't able to pull it out today, but sometimes that's the way it breaks.
Yeah, and looking at Sporting Kansas City compared to their first game, it was 11 goals for, 0 goals against tonight. So I don't know if it's going to be fascinating actually it's not next week. There's still two more prelim rounds, but championship week on May 17th, they'll take on LAFC, Sam. So we're going to get to find out before the final if it's LAFC or Sporting Kansas City.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It will. I know Josh has a comment to make about PC Sporting Kansas City before we move on to the rest of the tournament.
No, it'll definitely be fun to follow along and be interested in. I just wanted to note that today, MLSsoccer.com replayed the 2004 final between DC United and Sporting Kansas City. And if I had to pick which one I'd rather win, I'd take that 4-star over an eMLS Cup victory.
That's a soccer trash every way you can right now. Actual soccer is being played, but we can still flex a little bit.
I was kind of hoping for a little bit more of that between the players. You'd like to, hear them, liven it up a bit, and maybe that's just the personalities of the guys that got out there. But we'd love to hear a little more trash talk. Maybe we need to get a quick back in the fold here for mind games as well.
I don't know. I don't know, but I think the players, I think just from watching last week, I think everyone can hear each other. Again, Paul was kind of commenting that he wanted everyone muted except for his eMLS teammates who could hear that advice. So I think there was a little bit of trash talk. And then last week, for one of the legs, it sounded like they didn't mute that for the broadcast. You could kind of hear the players chatting back and forth and a little bit of that trash talk. So I would love for them to play it back because, again, there are no soccer games going on right now. I definitely re-listen to that game with just the players kind of trash talking each other. That would be interesting. Although, again, Paul was super focused in and into it, and I don't know that he was really trash talking. You could see that he was definitely like clapping on his team and encouraging them in the way that you might, on the field. But I don't know. Yeah, it would be interesting to hear that. So looking forward to kind of the rest of the tournament, we have 3 more weeks left of this eMLS action. So next weekend we have New York City playing New Jersey. We'll see how that goes. And then we have Dallas playing Houston. So we have those kind of quote unquote in-state
couple derbies next week.
I don't know. Yeah, not really, So the first one's a little bit questionable, but you'll have New York play New Jersey, Dallas play Houston, and then whoever wins from those two will go head-to-head. And then we have another interesting series in 2 weeks. We have Toronto playing Vancouver, and then we have Atlanta playing Orlando. So again, you have a little bit of those rivalries going on. And again, whoever from Toronto, Vancouver, and Atlanta, Orlando win will face off. And then in 3 weeks, as we've mentioned, that'll be the end. It'll end in the semis and the finals. So essentially we'll have Sporting Kansas City playing LAFC. We'll see what happens on the other side of the bracket. And then we'll have an eMLS champion.
Obviously with DC United being eliminated from the tournament, it's disappointing not to see them win the championship. But I really, really hope that the New Jersey Red Bulls don't find a way to pull this out. They continue not to have any actual championship trophies, so let's hope they don't change that in this regard either.
Which one do we think is worth more, an eMLS Cup or a Supporters Shield?
I think New Jersey would try to brag either one, but without any stars on their jersey. I don't know that they can talk anything. So.
They'll have about as many fans in the stands for each one.
It's a bit disappointing that it's not for Atlanta. It's not Joseph as the MLS player. It's Franco Escobar.
Yeah,
that'd be interesting.
Who knows how they went through the process of choosing their folks. I mean, obviously we talked a little bit about the Sporting Kansas City selection for their player, but appreciate seeing Paul out there, and obviously appreciate him being back in the show and hearing how his rehab's going. If you all saw the Instagram and saw how strong he's looking, hopefully we see him back sooner rather than later.
Yes, I mean I'll definitely be watching. I don't know what else is happening. So,
well, I guess we'll see how I do. Usually, when DC United are eliminated in the playoffs, I usually have to take a week or 2 off, where I just don't even bother watching, and then I usually make it back in time for the final. So we'll see how disappointed I am in this loss. But chances are, with literally nothing else to watch, I'll probably tune in next weekend. But one thing to tune in to our show next week. Hopefully, we're going to have some news out of the Bundesliga about when they're going to return, because they seem to be the closest major soccer league in the world to come back to action, potentially as soon as May 10th, I think I heard. So that would certainly be awesome.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see, because, we've talked a little bit about our players' agreement and how they need a full month to come back and, get some training in before they play in any games. So, May 10th is way less than a month away. So I don't know what kind of their players' agreement is, or how much time their players are asking that they get to train and get back into game day fitness. That'll definitely be some research I'll have to do.
And I don't know about y'all, but I'm kind of a free agent when it comes to Bundesliga teams. So if any of our followers want to reach out and let us know what Bundesliga teams we should choose and who we should get on, I'd love to hear that feedback.
That's what I was thinking. We should all pick a team. No one can pick the Red Bulls, but we should all pick a team to root for. I know it's at least a little bit close of a race, at least for second, I think, in the Bundesliga. So it'd be fun to root for something, I guess. We have nothing else to do. Dibs on Hoffenheim?
It is relatively tight at the top. Bayern, unfortunately, somehow are back on top. They're at 55, but Dortmund just behind them at 51, and then it's tight. Leipzig 50, Borussia Mönchengladbach 49, Leverkusen 47, and then it drops off to Schalke at 37. So there's 5 teams, really in contention at this point, which is rare for the Bundesliga. It feels like by Christmas it's usually wrapped. So.
Yeah, I saw something. Go ahead, Black.
I just think everything about this year is weird, so why not mix it up more than able to?
Yeah, I saw something as I'm like frantically scrolling through Twitter trying to find it. I definitely will not be able to, but probably it was for the Bundesliga. They were, fans were buying cutouts of themselves to put in the stands, which we've joked about a little bit. Whether or not we would do that, but it's interesting. We were asking players pretty consistently what their opinions were, and across the board they were saying that they would love to wait until fans are in the stadium, just because that's such a big part of that game day atmosphere. Home and away, they really bring the energy. But we don't know if that's an option. We don't know if that's going to be realistic. So I don't know, maybe cutouts of the fans are the next best thing.
That's Borussia Mönchengladbach, and it's 19 euros to get yourself a cardboard cutout at Borussia Park.
That is a lot less than I thought it would be. So, yeah, sign me up for that one.
We can actually maybe do that.
We'll do it, in Germany. It'll be fun.
Do they allow group photos or group photos taken remote?
We're gonna look into this.
Yeah, check our Twitter. We'll tweet about it. Oh, good times.
So
I don't know, man. I'm just really excited to watch live esports, I guess.
Hopefully the real sports are right around the corner. I watched nearly all 7 rounds of the NFL draft this weekend because it was just something normal in the sporting world again, and tonight was a lot of fun as well. I think we're still hoping to pull together our FIFA tournament. Joshua, do we know the numbers right now, or sort of where we're at? Do fans still have time to sign up?
Yeah, I think we're sitting around 8 or 9. Of course, we want to have a biggest bracket as possible. So if you want to join, hit us up on social media, Twitter, Instagram, or drop in the comments of this YouTube video or this Twitch or this Twitter video, and hopefully we'll have it up on Twitch. And then again, we've talked about maybe doing something with the DC United Twitch, which would be a lot of fun. So yeah, let us know, and hopefully we get it kicked off here in the next week.
Yeah, and I think you have to have an Xbox. That's the format, I guess, that we're playing in. You can tell that I'm very knowledgeable about this. So I would encourage anyone who just has the game, or maybe your significant other, your roommate has the game, even if you're not playing. I think I've completed 4 FIFA games in the past year. So
easy win over here.
I'm not great. The point is that we're really open to all. We're talking about FIFA being on FS1 right now, but that's definitely not the level that we're going for. We're just looking to connect with people in these crazy times, and connect over something that we love in the best way that we are able to. But yeah, I'll be an easy win. So I guarantee anyone can win against me. So if you're even a little bit nervous, go ahead, throw your hat in the ring. We'll at least get a couple good times out of it.
And for what we saw tonight, it could be a good time.
Well, I think that's a wrap for us this week, guys. I think I can't wait to hear this show back, because I was so excited, and I think we all were. It was great to get a nice return to virtual action, and we hope all of our listeners out there are staying safe and practicing social distancing, so we can get back to doing this for real. Hopefully not too long down the road.
Yep, absolutely excited to get back, and if you all have anything you want us to talk about, if you have any thoughts about our show, any advice for future shows, definitely give us a shout on social media. You can find us at Tried and True DCU. That's at Tried and True DCU. You can use that hashtag on Twitter. And then you can, drop us a note on YouTube. You can send us an email, triedandtruedcu@gmail.com. Whatever. We're all just kind of sitting around. Every time we hop on one of these, John's like, "How's it going?" And I'm like, literally same. I don't know. Nothing's happening. So we'd love to talk with you all and see how everyone's doing, and, interact and just make it through best we can.
I think we've finally sorted all the communications to do a show virtually, so we'll bring back the call-in line next week and hopefully give you another way to join the show. But for this week, thanks for joining us. Hopefully you enjoyed the eMLS tournament. That's back next week, and we'll let you know when our next show is, and hopefully we'll have a cool special guest to chat with us for a little bit right here on Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken.
The bad news is that everyone is a potential victim. But the good news is that everyone is a potential solution. Sensitize the masses to sanitize. Keep a social distance and quarantine. Stop!
The coronavirus is sweeping over mankind.
Everybody must be alert. It's a global pandemic we can never take for granted. Kila mtu must be alert. It's a matter of life we can never take for granted. Discipline and personal hygiene, and make sure you regularly wash your hands. Keep a distance from everyone. Report anything like a symptom. Serious fever is a symptom. Dry cough is a symptom. Walkway tamula is a symptom. Itchy eyes and flu is a symptom.